Welcome to NPAC's FIMS Learning Webinar on the Introduction to Fund Statement Designer. A couple of housekeeping notes. We are recording this and you will be able to find a link to this and previous recordings in our knowledge base. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter it in the Q&A below and I'll be watching those and bring them up to Robin. If I haven't met you yet, I'm Amy Strom, the Vice President of Client Experience, and today you'll be hearing from our FIMS expert, Robin. And without further ado, I'll pass this off to Robin to get us started. Take it away, Robin.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Give me just one moment here. Okay, so at this point, you all should be able to see my FIMS.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, so today's session is an introduction to Fund Statement Designer. There's a lot of pieces to it, and I couldn't possibly cover everything in an hour, but at least you're going to be able to see some examples of what you can do with the Fund Statement Designer. And essentially, the Fund Statement Designer was created to help you transition away from Microsoft Word or Crystal if you're using those third-party tools to create your fund statements. These fund statements can be generated straight out of FIMS with no interface needed, no export needed to Word. So it makes them kind of nice as Microsoft changes their versions of Word. In the past, we've had issues with the mail merge piece, so this is kind of nice. What I'm going to do is show you the end result because it's always nice to start with, well, what can this do for me? So I'm in the general ledger module and I'm going to go to reports, and right about in the middle, there's fund statements. And I have a saved report set up here. So you're going to run the fund statements the same way you would if you're doing fund statement export or just running fund statements to the screen because you wanted to see the actual values. You're going to run them exactly the same. And I'm going to run this. The difference is that you are still going to see what I consider to be this really ugly view of the data, but there is a menu option up here called external statements. And external statements can do multiple things. I'm going to start with preview first. So if I click on preview, what this is going to do is this is going to show me what my fund statement would look like if it was printed. So you can see that I have a logo at the top. I have name and address information for the donor. This is available to put onto this fund statement as long as when you do your export, you're making sure that you're choosing a fund representative type so that the profile for the donor is linked to the fund, and then you can insert name and address information. You don't have to. These are just options that I chose to put on this particular statement. The fund ID, you can put text, the name of the fund, the period of time. This has a quarter to date column along with a year to date column. Some additional text that I just put on this first page at the bottom. And then on the second page, you can see contributions detail. You can see grant detail. I have pledges that's part of this FIMS database, and there was a pledge that was made during this period of time. You also can put in, if you like to show admin expenses, program expenses, that can be inserted. It's much easier to insert a detail section into Fund Statement Designer than it is trying to insert those pieces into Microsoft Word. You do have the ability to change the font, lots of different stuff. You can decide where on the page you want this to be visible. You can move things around. So it is flexible. Not quite as flexible as Word, because Word has been around for quite a while, but if your statement is pretty straightforward, this is a good tool to use. All right, so I'm going to close this and I'm going to close this. So now we're going to talk about the tool itself. So the Fund Statement Designer tool is integrated with the row and column format. So in General Ledger, under the Design Statements tab, this is the actual statement that I used to define that statement we just saw. And if you look, there is an actual code. So when you go to run the statement, you run it based on the code. It's got a report description, and it also has the name of the row and column format. So putting those two pieces together actually makes the statement. So with that said, I'm going to go to File Maintenance. So the only way to get to the Fund Statement Designer is under File Maintenance in General Ledger. And the option is right here called Fund Statement Designer. So my Fund Statement Designer screen opens, and what I'm going to do at the top is I'm going to choose the statement that we were just looking at. Okay, so the code for the statement is FSD statements with donor name version 3. I was creating multiple versions. And then the description is donor statements. And the way I have this set up, so this information right here in this upper block in the upper left-hand side is basically the same information that you would see right here under the statement tab. So it's got the statement name, it's got the description, the base year, your base period. Now, just because my base year says 2023 period 3 doesn't mean when I go to run it that I can't change the dates, because I could if I wanted to. And then it has the name of the row format and the name of the column format. So putting those two pieces together creates my statement. And that's also what I can see over here on the upper left-hand side. Gonna minimize this. Okay. So what we're looking at here is there's two ways to work with this statement. At the top of the screen, you see the statement layout. So the general ledger piece, what we can see right here is a combination of the row and column. And if you need to make changes, there's two different ways you can do this. You can make changes directly in the Fund Statement Designer, but you can also make changes the way you have previously by going to the row format tab in the design statement. So we're actually seeing the same information here as we can see in Fund Statement Designer, whichever way you're more comfortable with. You can make changes. Okay. So we've got general ledger view and we have statement layout. So if I go to my statement layout, on the upper right-hand side, it says view all pages, only the first page or subsequent pages. So only the first page is how I have laid out the information that's going to go on page 1. So my mailing address for my donors, their name and address, the fund ID, fund name, statement period, and then the financial summary section. So the financial summary section is the information on that first page, beginning balance, activity, ending balance. Going to go back to general ledger here. So this second little grouping, saved report settings used for preview. So I actually have set up a saved report. So if you noticed when I went to run this, I went to fund statements and I went to saved reports. This right here is the name of my saved report. So I can either run this from the reports menu, or I can preview it from within Fund Statement Designer by making sure that that is in this field right here. Now, there's two ways to run it. You can skip prompts or add a prompt. If you choose to have a prompt, when I go to preview, it's going to ask me what I might like to change. So do I want to change the period covered? But what I have done is I've already set this up and I've even added one fund. So when I'm doing a preview, trying to make sure I'm creating this correctly, it's going to automatically run for me with just that one fund. So I have this one set to skip prompts, and it's just going to actually pop right up for me. So that's a little bit quicker when you're trying to look and make sure you're placing things in the right place. The next little block on the left is test values used for display values. So on the right-hand side, if you notice, there's GL account numbers, there's total rows, the normal stuff you would see in a row format. So if I click the display values, that's actually going to show me the dollar amounts instead of the formulas. So I can see right here, does this look correct? Does it not look correct? But I do get to see and make sure that these are producing what I actually would like to see. And then the last piece down here is your save options. So when I click on save options, what opens for me is this save design statement. So if you've been working and making changes to the row formatter, what'll happen when you click on save options is the little button for save row formatter is going to be lit up. That's because Fund Statement Designer knows I made changes and I need to save them. The same applies to these other ones. You can save your column formatter if you've made changes. You can save the row format. You can save the saved report as well, and save the actual statement itself. So if you're on the statement layout radio button and you've made some changes and need to save those, you can do that here. Now, if you want to make a copy, and this could be, let's say that you've got an existing fund statement row and column that's already set up, but you might like to convert that to be able to use Fund Statement Designer. If you say save row formatter as, or any of these others, column, statement, or saved report, you can actually give it a name so that you make sure you're not making changes to an existing statement that works. This allows you to kind of start from scratch. You make a copy of what you've got and move forward from there. I will say before you try to preview, you do have to save your changes before previewing to see if they look okay. To the right of that is an undo button. So this works the way the undo button does in the rest of FIMS. If you click on this, it's gonna reverse out all of the changes you've made up to the last point where you saved it. And then this is kind of a neat button because this is going to give you a statement report. So this is actually going to show you what you have set up. So for example, the base year, what row format is attached, what column format is attached. It's got the sections that have been added to the statement layout itself, my financial summary, my gift detail, my grant detail. All of that's available. And then if I keep scrolling down, I can actually see additional layout items, which I'll show you in a little bit. And then we've got a column format. I have two columns, one for quarter to date, one for year to date. And then here's my row format. So this is all of the information that's actually going to show up on the statement. And you can print this, so it's kind of nice to have sometimes to have a paper record. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my preview. And this external statements right here is new. So there's a few different things you can do besides preview this. You could print it. But it's the 4 items below. So this would save the individual statements to fund folders, will literally save each one of these fund statements to the fund folder if you have that set up in your fund module. And it's going to create them, turn them into a PDF and put individual statements into the fund folders. Same things with individual statements to profiles. It can take, if you have 10 statements in here, it converts each one of them into an individual PDF and puts them in the profile folder for the donor. And then this one, individual statements to folder, it's just going to create all of the individual PDF documents and put them into one folder that you specify. So the folders are user definable based on how you have FIMS set up. And then this last one is individual statements for Donor Central. So if you have Donor Central, this will convert them into exactly what needs to be done to upload them to Donor Central. So it's kind of nice to have all of these options right here.
Robin, I have a quick question that came in.
Sure.
One of the foundation says we do not have the external statements option enabled in their FIMS. Is that a setting that needs to be activated in an admin menu?
No, it's not. It's something that needs to be in place in order for that to show up. So, I'm actually going to get to that. That is a great question. But we'll actually get there.
Great, thanks.
And in the handout that I put together for today's session, I did put in a section on how to convert your current statements to a fund statement designer statement.
Thank you.
All righty. All right, so let's go to all right, so from a general ledger perspective, the way that you would make changes in here for row and columns is you would right click. So for example, if I right click on that row 20 for contributions, these are the options I have. I can add a row, I can edit this existing row, I can copy a row, remove it, or I can edit a column. So if I edit the row, this is what I'm seeing. I can see it's row 20. It's called contributions. Here's my formula. Here's my GL account. So if I need to make a change, I can do that here. And you also do have the ability to edit the formatting for that particular row. So the fonts and formats for the fund statement designer, you have two options. You can set options on every single piece, separate piece of them in the fund statement designer, or you can basically tell fund statement designer to look at whatever is in the financial summary section and use the same font throughout the statement itself so that it can be consistent, which makes it easier because you don't have to go into each one of the rows and columns to make changes to the formatting. If I right click and say edit column, so here I can edit the column, remove it. I can add another column before or after this particular one. If I say edit column, it opens the screen where I can change the heading, choose what type of column it is. Are they actual or current? These are all of the same pieces of information that you have, well, with the exception of the formatting, but that you have access to in the column formats. All right. Um, hang tight for just one moment. Okay. So if you don't feel comfortable making changes to the row and column formats in here, not to worry, you absolutely can just go in if you're comfortable with the design statements tab over here. You can come over here and make changes. So if you notice my column A has the header, column B has a header. I have the information that I need here. You can hide the columns or not hide the columns. And I am going to show you in a little bit a fiscal year statement that I created, even though this particular database is calendar year. All right, so let me go back here. So probably the newest part of Fund Statement Designer is this statement layout where you can actually choose what goes on the page itself. So there are different options. For example, if you look at add or modify detail section, if you click on this link, what this does is it shows you which sections you've already got included. So if you look, I have my financial summary, my gift detail, my pledge detail, grant detail, and admin expenses detail. So all of those are already on this statement. But if you have the stock gift module, there's two other sections that you can actually add to this. One of them is stock activity detail, and the other one is stock inventory detail. And if you need to make changes, if you just click on edit with financial summary, this is my financial summary section. So at the very top, you can see my default statement font is sans serif for 12, but you could just click that button and make a change based on what's in here for fonts. You also have at the bottom where you can specify which columns you want to see. So I have 3 columns in my statement. And if we look over here, I have financial summary, I have quarter to date and year to date. And down below is where you can actually see the column. So if I click on description, you have the ability to say how wide it is, how far it's going to print from the left-hand side or the top, depending on how you want to place it. This is right justified, but you have the ability to use left or center. You can put in the actual description of what you want that column's description to be. And then by clicking on each additional column, you can make the same types of changes to each individual column so that you're sure that everything lays out nicely and fits on the screen. So on my first page, when I create fund statements in Fund Statement Designer, based on a pagination, I don't have the ability to control the pagination quite as nicely as I would like to. So the recommendation is to only put your financial summary information on the first page and put the detail sections on page 2. And I'll get to that in just a minute. So you can decide how you want to see the information. So for example, here, this one that has, I'm going to go into edit this. So this one, you have the ability to merge text, actual go in here and enter text as well as merge fields. So it's almost like creating a merge field. So if you look, I have the name, the address, and the city, state, zip. And in order to put those in, I have 3 rows here. I put the @ sign number 1, the @ sign number 2, and the @ sign number 3. I also have complete ability to control how large that box is. So 5 inches wide by 1.05 inches high. So, I mean, you can get very specific as to how you want to place this information on the page. Although I will say, some of these you have the ability to actually drag them around once you've defined what that box looks like. I could move it around on the page and then save it, and I wouldn't have to update any of those specific with or the other information that's on here. It doesn't have to get quite as crazy as that because I can just move it around. Here, if you look at this one that says Fund ID, here's an example of where I put text in. So I wanted it to literally say Fund ID, and then I picked the merge field for the Fund ID itself. But you do have access to other fields from a merge perspective. If you've got field maker fields, fund for the fund module, those are available to insert into any of this text. Fund representative information, fund information, all of these are available to insert into this merge text section. Okay, so that is the information on the first page. And let me go to the subsequent pages. Now, in order to modify, you see, I am highlighting, I am hovering over each section and then it pops up. So you have control over where this sits. In this case, I have this sitting 2 inches from the top. This is my first section. If I go to the details, grant detail, you can see that it's a 1/2 inch below my gift detail. So in some places you can say specifically where you want it to set on the page, and then other sections you can put in relation to them. So if I go back to my gifts, you can put in text. If there's no contributions, what do you want that text to say? What do you want on your total row? And you can actually specify which columns that you want visible. So if I was to insert after, right here on the next to the field, these are all of the columns that you could actually insert. So if there's something that you'd like visible on your detail pages that's not there, you do have the ability to pull in additional fields for columns. Okay. All right. So any questions, additional questions about any of the stuff that's here? And the document that I put together is much more detailed on all of the information that you have access to, the different merge sections, the detailed sections, which fields are included in each of the detailed sections. So all that information is there for you. All right, so let's look at sorry, hold on a second. The next thing I actually want to show you is, I'm going to close this, the fund statement that is fiscal year, even though my database is a calendar year. So I'm going to run this. So again, what I'm seeing here is my fund statements. This is kind of my preview of the information that's going to show up, just so I can make sure it's going to be correct before I preview it. If you look here, this particular fund, I do have the advanced stock gift module. And this fund happens to be holding on to 2 stocks right now that were not sold, that were contributions that were given to them. So that's why this is on here. But if you notice, when I go to my external statements, that is not a section. I did not put that on here. The only thing I added here was the gifts and the grants detail section. But if you notice, there's just one column here. And this is from July 1st of 2024 through June 30th of 2025. Now, a couple things. When you run these fund statements, for example, you have the ability to choose which period of time you want the gift and grant detail. So I had to go in separately and set my detail from July 1st to June 30th because by default, it's just giving me calendar year dates. So you also, if you have a quarter to date column, you can decide whether you want to show gift and grant detail for the whole year or just for the current quarter. So there's options with that as well, but I'm going to show you what that looks like. So you've got an idea. Okay. So this is the column format for that fiscal year statement. And column A is actually, because I'm on a calendar year, column A is going to be July to December of the previous year. So if you look here, my fiscal year definition says base minus one. So when I run that report, my fund statement report, what it's looking at right here where it says base year, it's looking at whatever I choose. So if I choose 2025, this is going to give me column A is going to be 2025 minus 1 year. So it's going to give me my July to December from 2024. And I've actually even specified that I want that to be period 7 to 11. So July to December. I want actual data. I don't want budget data. And you have to use current. If you're doing anything, if the column is anything other than an actual year to date, you would just choose current. And the cool thing is you can hide the column because I don't want anybody to see this. I just need the column for purposes of part of the calculation, part of column C, actually. So if you look at column B, that's January to June. My fiscal year is base because when I run it, I'm running it for 2025. So it's going to pull in for 2025. And it's also going to pull in for January to June. And that's also hidden because what I actually want visible is this third column right here. I want column A and column B. And that's what is displayed when I run it. And that's the only column that is visible right here. And you could put a column header on it. I didn't choose to put anything because I had the dates up here. And you can put the dates, define what the dates are. So like if I was to rerun, these are fields that you can add, like period covered, statement date. Those are also two fields that you can insert as merge text into the actual statements themselves. Okay. Any questions? There's detailed steps on how to create a fiscal year statement from a calendar year. Now, the row format itself does not look any different in a regular calendar year statement. It's just the column pieces that define what actual total dollars will show up. All right, and I think that's it for today. I think that's the end of what I have here.
Did we cover the external statements piece?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Yeah.
I'm digging right now. Bear with me for just 1 second. I want to say that the financial summary section needs to be on let me just go back in here, needs to be on here in order for that to show up. It just shows up automatically. There isn't any way for us to turn it on or off, but if the financial summary section is on the statement layout, you will have it.
Then you'll have the external statements option.
Yeah, it shows up automatically. Yep. Because we can't turn it off or on.
Great. If there's more questions on that, they can enter a support ticket, Robin.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be happy to help. What I will tell you though, what usually happens, they'll come into Fund Statement Designer, they'll pull up the one that they want to convert, they'll do the save options and they'll give it new names for each one of them and they'll save it. And then if they don't, at that point, there won't be anything on the statement layout because it's like a blank Word document at this point. So you really can't preview it. And without that financials, even if you were to put like the mailing profile information, fund name, statement period, and you just wanted to see what it would look like, without that financial summary section, you're not going to be able to see the external statements. There won't be an option.
That's great. Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone want to go ahead and enter them either in the chat or the Q&A? We have a couple minutes. Robin can address those.
And I will say I've seen some people who've had the really complex fund statements that had charts and things like that. I will say Fund Statement Designer is not able to do that. But if you have kind of a basic fund statement with all the information on there, there's really isn't any reason why you shouldn't be able to create a statement in Fund Statement Designer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you have specific questions, absolutely put in a case and I'll help you figure out how to convert or how to create one.
Perfect. And that's really where we're at for the day. If you do have further questions or something that has come up, please reach out to me and you can enter a support ticket as well. And Robin will go through those. But please reach out if we can help with something.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you all in November. Please watch for our next NPAC Pulse, which is an update on all of our software, be coming out next week. So keep an eye out for it. Thanks everyone for joining.